Do you want your audio to sound like this? Or like this? In this video, I'll show you exactly how I made this recording booth to record high-quality voiceovers in. This is what my recording studio has looked like for the past couple of weeks. Just a couple of blankets over a microphone. I drew up some plans and got busy making a better recording studio. I started by sewing two moving blankets together. I used 25-pound test trilene fishing line, which wasn't the best option. You'll see what I did later that was much better. I put one blanket on top of the other, and sewed a line down with very wide suture lengths, about 3 to 4 inches apart. This was fairly difficult. I figured out a system later that is much easier than having the blankets on top of one another. I had to use pliers to grip the sewing needle to pull the line through, because it kept getting stuck on the blanket. After I finished sewing the blankets together, I tied a couple of knots in the end of the line so it wouldn't slip through and undo all of my work. I repeated this process until I had 3 moving blankets sewn together. They will make the back and side panels of my recording booth. Then I took the measurements of a black towel to see if it would work as the ceiling of my recording booth. I ended up sewing half of another towel to the first towel to match the dimensions of my booth. After those towels were sewed together, I began to sew the 3 moving blankets to the towel. I gripped my needle too hard with my pliers and broke the tip off the needle. I couldn't get it through the materials when it was broken, so I tried using a fishing hook. That was very difficult to pull through the different layers of material. I finally bit the bullet and went to the store to buy some more sewing needles to do a proper job. I also used braided fishing line instead of monofilament, which was much easier to work with because it had no memory, which meant it didn't coil on itself when I let go. I also pinched the materials together, so I had access to both the front and the back sutures instead of trying to sew above and underneath the materials. This was a lot easier than putting the blankets on top of each other and sewing up and down over and over. I started with what would be the back, and I sewed that to the roof towel. Then I sewed the left side panel to the towel. I finished by sewing the right side panel to the towel. Once the back and the side panels were all sewed to the ceiling panel, I took some PVC pipe and made a scaffolding to hang them on. I got 4 84-inch pieces of pipe for the vertical pieces, and 4 34-inch pieces as well as 4 44-inch pieces for the base and the top. I connected all the pieces with simple PVC elbow joints. I chose these dimensions so I could sit or stand in the booth with any number of instruments. It gets a little crowded sometimes when I've got some larger instruments, but it still works. I draped the fabric that I had sewn together over the PVC framework. Then I added a blanket behind where my microphone would be to fully enclose the recording booth. I didn't sew the other pieces because I needed a place to actually get in the booth, and I needed a place for my microphone to come into the booth as well. I also needed places for power cords for lights. I added a light so I could see what I was doing in there. I added a large comforter over the top of the entire thing to further deaden the sound. I also added some additional towels, blankets, and pillows around the bottom of the booth. I could have done something more professional, but my main objective was to use materials I already had and spend as little money as possible. And now I have a place to record professional audio for my voiceovers. Let me know in the comments what you think I should have done differently. And like this video if it gave you some ideas to make your own recording booth.